Hello, welcome everyone. This will be a fun one today. And so I'm going to get the presentation ready to rock. Hopefully people can start jumping in. See a bunch of you on here already. Welcome to this week's Brain Gain. And so I'm just getting everything ready. Kayla's going to jump on and kick us off in just a second here, and we'll go from there. Hey there.
Hello. How are you today, Jeff?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing pretty good.
Awesome.
Welcome, everybody. Let's see.
Yeah, so good number of people in right now.
Let's go ahead and kick it off.
Okay, sounds
All
great.
right. So agenda for today, a couple of updates that we're going to share with y'all. The weekly Slack highlights, and then Jeff's going to jump into today's brain gain, and where he's going to be going over his Google Ads calculator, which is really exciting. So I don't want to wait too long to get to it. In case you missed it, yesterday, Google Analytics announced that landing pages reports are going to be showing up in accounts. I believe that's just going to be a default. I don't think you have to add it manually, although we did get someone saying this morning they're not seeing it yet, but I think this is really exciting. I know other people are pretty excited about it too. It's something we've been waiting for.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either, but it says it will just show up in the engagement part of the report. So as long as you didn't mess with that like I did, you should get it.
So reset the default reports.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
And then another announcement is that there's going to be behavioral modeling and real-time reporting. So if that's important to you, awesome. That's exciting. Love to see these new updates rolling through. Great. Excellent.
Yeah. And just on that one, I saw a lot of people chattering about this, and it does look interesting, and it looks like it sort of strengthens the case of the data modeling or behavior modeling. So that's good. But also I think that it, there's still some things to be seen about how we feel about behavior modeling and what it does for data. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Awesome. And then for today's Slack highlight, it's kind of impossible to be on the internet without hearing about ChatGPT right now. I know that Twitter and many other places where people like us who are in digital marketing hang out are kind of up in arms about what this means for the industry, especially for SEOs. And I just wanted to pull out this question here of what do we think about it? There's some really interesting articles and points of view being shared. This is happening in the Chatter channel. Again, I think it's the kind of gist is we don't know how it's going to impact us yet, but I think there's some really helpful perspectives being shared in this thread. We'd also love to hear what your guys' perspectives are too, because this is it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, there were two particular links that got shared in that thread that I thought were interesting. If you can maybe dig those up and throw them in the chat, people can see them.
I'll throw them in the chat.
But the first one I had shared, and it was about what it means and how accurate are these things. I think the one thing we should note is that these things, they look good and they use a lot of big words, but are they style over substance a little bit? I think there's a risk of that. So just because it looks good and it looks persuasive, it might turn out to be something that doesn't have a lot behind it, or that it's plagiarizing from somebody else. So we just got to be careful with that. It's sort of like when Google provides you an answer for something, what's the source? So, and then the other one is Google knows with a 95% success if you did use a chatbot to generate something. So they actually, there's another article that was shared that 95% of the time Google knows that was something that came from AI. So it might fool the human, but it doesn't fool the computer that tests it because of some of the styles and some of the things they did. So, which is really interesting. So if you use it for SEO purposes, for example, a lot of people are, that's why people have lost a lot of SEO value, because they did use AI because it looked good enough. So just keep that in mind. I think that was shared by Xavier. So yeah, cool. So all right, today for the brain gain, we are going to go in and we're going to share the Google Ads calculator. This is the 2022 version. You'll notice some similarities between other ones that we've done as well. But this goes back to the first time I ever published this was 2015, when I published the Google, what was called then ppccourse.com. Okay. So I published it on this site. I had first built it in 2009. And then I created a version of it and published it as part of the Google Ads course that I had at the time, or Google AdWords course back in the day. And it's been the biggest lead magnet we've ever had. I mean, we've had probably over 100,000 people download this thing from us on our blog over the years. It's one of the first things that people mention when they talk to me, or when they say, hey, like, I love the course because it helped me with this thing, and they cite this. So it's done really well. And honestly, like, the idea behind this, waterfalling what somebody is willing to spend to what results they expect, waterfalling it, meaning that you start with like how much you want to spend and then put their numbers in place to the point where you arrive at an idea as to what's happening. That's timeless. It doesn't really change all that much. Some of the middle stuff changes, the type of business they are changes, and so on. So like this one that you're seeing on the screen right now is for lead gen. So it's basically for a lead gen. I use it for like home improvement, and I've used it for software sales, stuff like that, where you get a bunch of inquiries. Not all of them are very good, but eventually you get them into a sales process, and it sort of helps you understand the gray area that conversion tracking usually doesn't have. So this is the reason why this is even necessary in the first place, is because Facebook or Google ads can always tell you, if you spend this much money and you have this much per click, how much you can expect, right? But they can never really relate it to an offline sale or a sale that happens outside of there. They also don't incorporate things like agency fees. They don't incorporate things like margins on your product. And they also don't incorporate lifetime value of customer. And so those are different things that you can't get out of a system. And that's why we needed to build our own calculator. And so this is the data-driven version of it. This has been out there for quite some time. It's been on, like I said, this between Jefflytics.com and data-driven, it's been downloaded at least 100,000 times over the years. And the data-driven one is specific for lead gen campaigns. And so it's available in a lot of different places. It's just on our blog. It's like you put your email address to get in there. It should be available inside your portal on the new members.datadrivenyou.com as well. So it is out there. But the thing that I wanted to really share now is that I built a new version of it with some new bells and whistles for e-commerce and funnels. And I actually built it with a purpose in mind. And that was that I wanted to build it because I was evaluating a Google Ads agency, and they weren't giving me enough on what to expect for the numbers. And I said, how come every agency doesn't use this? How come everybody doesn't mention this? It was standard practice for us trying to figure out a payback for our customers in my agency days. But like, I wasn't getting it on the client side. And I said, it's weird, like having been the service provider forever, you just want you're like, why doesn't the client want to work with me? I'm the best, right? I'm good at these things. But on the client side, now that I'm the one who's on the client, I like to look at it and be like, okay, well, what's the worst case scenario that can happen? Right? If I do this thing, if I spend money on ads, and what's happening here, what's the likelihood that this is going to work or fail miserably? And what's the tolerance that I have to get this thing off the ground? So it's a completely different attitude. And honestly, this thing is sort of like a bridge between both sides, between providers being experts and then the client or the person who's investing the budget, to sort of figure out, even in the worst case scenario, was it there? Okay. So that's what this version is. And I did add some new bells and whistles in there. Like I said, I'll go through, I'm going to go through that. The rest of this time we'll just be going through the calculator. So why don't we just go ahead and do that? Because I like the things like these walking through scenarios. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and I'm going to show you how it works. And then we'll have the rest of the time for questions and answers. And if you want to see anything. Okay. So here we are in the calculator. It looks like Kayla dropped the link in there. So you should have that handy. First thing you're going to do is make a copy because you don't have edit privileges. And I like to make copy too, because I don't, I like the example to stay the same. And then I like to mess with it. Okay. So, a few things here. This one is specifically for ads or cost per click bid style. We don't mention things like impressions in here. We're really saying you pay for the action, the click action, and then you get the person going to your site. The biggest variable ultimately is how much it costs per click and then what your conversion rate is. The other thing here is this is for e-commerce. So this is using what I call a funnel or a funnel style, a tripwire style product, because it's basically assuming that you're going to get some revenue on the first sale, but then you actually have a bunch of other upsells and stuff like that are going to increase the revenue overall, and that will bring the campaign closer to profitability. Like I said to you, like I said a few minutes ago, this is based on data driven. So it's not like some weird astronomical thing that doesn't make sense. We're going to be launching some ads and we're going to be trying different price points and different setups to see what the right sweet spot is, whether it's low price with a bunch of upsells, whether it's medium price, minimal upsells, that type of stuff. So we're going to be doing some experiments, and I wanted to run the numbers to see how this would work. And so this version is for e-commerce. Again, you can get the version that we've had for a long time that's for lead gen as well. Or if you wanted to take this one and make it about lead gen, all you need to do is really sort of adjust what we're saying here to match a little bit closer to what we had previously. So the example here is, say that, like, and this is a pretty common scenario that I come across. So somebody's like, you'll talk to, like, let's just assume this is a client. It could be your own company, but let's just say you decide, just like me, 2023 is going to be the year that you're going to bring your ads to the point where it's expanding the profitability of your business. It's expanding the reach and number of customers you have. So say that you're like me and you're like, okay, let's just see if we throw $5,000 at this, what's going to happen. Okay. And then you can go into the Google Keyword Planner tool and look and see what they'd say a cost per click would be. Really depends on your industry, depends on a lot of things. Like if you're doing attorneys, it's like $100 a click. If you're doing something that's not very well monetized, it's less than that. But the cost per click is actually less and less important now as Google uses things like machine learning, and they use their ability to find better audiences. So this could be, you could end up paying $5 a click, but then they're going to only give you the best conversions because of their machine learning. They're going to say, okay, well, yeah, we'll spend as much as per click as we need because we know those people are going to convert higher. And so you're really, this is a little bit of a warning. If you're working on a brand new account and you've never advertised before, these numbers are going to usually be super inaccurate. The cost per click might be a lot higher than you can get. With good management, you can usually lower cost per click by about 50%, pretty easily, because you're just not bidding on garbage that doesn't really need to be bid on. And then with good management, you can also increase your conversion rate because you're not bidding on garbage that doesn't need to be bid on. So these things, usually if you use the keyword planner, it's going to tell you can expect $20 a click or something like that, or $10 a click. Whatever that number is, I would usually divide it by 2, and that's sort of what I get at. So like, I'm just gonna, if it said $10 to me, I'd put it at 5, and then conversion rate. That's again, that one really doesn't have too much. It has a little bit to do with the management of the ads, but it's also like, what's the offer and how good is it in place? So I've seen this anywhere from 1% to 20%. And you just have to put something in there if you don't have a history of ad success in the past. You have to just sort of figure it out. So between 2 and 5% is sort of my just figure it out number. Okay. Again, these are variables, so you can see what it looks like with one way of doing it, and you can see what it looks like with another one. You're not completely tied to that. You're just you're just trying some stuff, right? You're just trying to map it out and see what happened. Let me get down here. Obviously, revenue per sale, very different depending on the type of business you have. If I say e-commerce, this, if let's just say that's like a pair of shoes or something like that. Maybe, if you're doing physical products, maybe you want to be in a lower price point. Maybe you want to do a little bit of a loss leader out there. Loss leader meaning that it's, it's a product where you might not make any money on it, but it does get somebody into your system. And then you utilize these order bumps and these upsells in order to increase the value. And then I've added a new column in here called customer lifetime value. And that is, maybe you make them, maybe they make some money on this sale or you break even on it. But if you look at the additional lifetime value, that's where you really start to add in, okay, well, I can make $100 plus 20% chance of a $300 order. So that you divide that by 5, that would be another $60. So $160 here plus 20% of 1,000 is $200. So it's about $360 that I make per sale in this case. Well, if you're spending $100 to make $360, plus you add in that your product costs half of that, so $180, you're looking at $295 per sale. So you're barely making you're just making a little bit of money on there. But if over the lifetime they make an extra $1,000, then advertising, frankly, is a no-brainer because you're adding this in there. Now, the reason why I had to add the customer lifetime value into here is because I was running the numbers and advertising didn't really make sense for me without factoring that in there, right? If I would have just run the calculator and said, okay, show me my numbers without lifetime value, and I said that was 0, you can see here. And then if I and these actually aren't really the prices are more like $200, let's say, for that. $200, let's call it, or this is actually $100. And this is let's like 59, 50, 100. Okay. Look, every time that you sell something, you're losing $71. Would anybody in their right mind want to do that? If you're losing $71? No, like that's like this, you're dead in the water. But if you add in lifetime value, okay. So it's still not profitable on that case, but in the case of other, maybe the margins are a little bit higher. Maybe you put that at 75. Okay, you are making a little bit of money on this thing. Not a lot, but you're making a little bit of money on there. So that's sort of the way what this calculator allows you to do, is to see at what price points really quickly to get a decision. Is this logical? So if your cost per click, if you were to lower that, then it is profitable, for example. And so and then the things like return on ad spend and return on investment, those are incorporating revenue and profit. So that's why they're showing as negative, even though you are making a little bit of money on there, because it's not it's return on ad spend and investment are on that initial buy, not necessarily on overall profit. So that's part one. And then part two is, okay, well, let's see what the sweet spot is for how much we think we should spend. 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20, 25,000. This is a little bit different numbers, as you can see here. This isn't the same numbers that are carried on over there. But if you were to go through these numbers, and we have it at $24 a click, we have a little bit more expensive or more revenue per sale, as we can see here. You can see the different scenarios. The highest ROAS is here. The other thing I should mention here is agency fees are just a percentage of the ad spend. In this case, about 15% of the ad spend is what I'm calculating that at. I've seen 20%, I've seen higher than that, but that's just what I'm using as a calculation here. And you see, okay, so then your returns, the only one that's positive on ad spend is here, yet all these things are making a return on investment when you factor in LTV. And then the other thing I'll mention is that the total profit, notice how the percentages and total profit don't always match up. So this is a lower percentage, 51%, 47% is lower, but the total profit sweet spot is at the 20K budget with these numbers, even though at 20K, it costs more per click, the conversion rate goes down a little bit, and so on. Okay. So we have this, what we call the profit maximizer, which is sort of just giving you an idea as to what spend do you think we're going to get the highest profit. And some of the people, it's interesting, like when I work with various people and various companies, it's not always the most money that gets you the best return on investment. A lot of times you want to optimize for spending more money because it lowers the agency fees a little bit, because the more you spend, the lower percentage your agency fees are. However, even with factored in there, it still might not be the most profitable thing you do. So we try to create this curve to help you decide, and your clients decide where the opportunity is going to be. Okay. So, I can't tell you how often this changes the conversation from trying to convince somebody they need to do ads with you to saying, what do we need to do in order to make sure that we get this thing to be profitable? And then we make money on this thing. It makes you a one of one because you're using their numbers to build the solution for them and they're buying into it, as opposed to saying, hey, we do Google Ads management. We do this, right? Everybody sounds the exact same when they talk about we get more cost, we get clicks, or we're good at, we do, just talking about what the system is and how you run the system. That's not the value here. The value is helping them get aligned with their numbers to give them hope that advertising is the best investment they can do, and showing them what that value is. So yeah, Fred.
On that, on this one, line 9, so the conversion rate you have dropping as you spend more. Mm-hmm. Is that just an assumption, or is that based on what you're actually seeing, or?
Yeah, so this is all assumptions right now. This isn't
okay.
So it's sort of showing that when you spend $5,000, you're cherry picking the lowest hanging fruit, which is usually remarketing for search ads. It's long tail keywords and so on. As you spend more money, you need to lower your standards a little bit in order to get in front of more people. And so naturally, you'll see those things. You'll see cost per click increase because you're not going after just low hanging fruit, and you'll see conversion rate decline. So that's, because like an example, Fred, would be if we're just doing pure search ads and you were bidding on something like, I'll just use like Google Analytics course, like it was our keyword. Say that's $24 or something like that. This isn't like, say it's $2. Well, if I did Google Analytics training, that's usually a little bit more expensive because a training is like a live thing and you're competing against somebody charging thousands of dollars. So they bid up that one more than just course. Or like Google Analytics, let's see, cohort class, that might be more expensive. So those things are different. So the more you open it up to different things, those things all have their own bid levels and expenses. And then also your landing page relevance from that keyword will go down because your thing says, I have a Google Analytics course. It doesn't say training. And so it's going to naturally convert less because it's a little bit less relevant. Now you can mitigate that a little bit with your landing page. Like you might spin up 20 landing pages to have, with the right keyword in place, or you do variations and stuff like that. But that's usually you don't want to bake that into your model that you're going to have 20 landing pages and that you're going to you're trying. This thing is not, it's meant to be a sales tool only. It's not even something that I would necessarily send to the customer, because I don't want them to think this is like something I'm guaranteeing. It's a collaborative thing you do together. Like, hey, here's what it looks like if we spend these ones. And then these are the assumptions we're making. Hopefully it's a lot less than this, but I just want to show you that here's the assumptions we have in place.
Got it. Thank you. That helps a lot.
I can't emphasize enough that if you tell somebody if they think these are the hard numbers, they're going to expect that. And then the second that you don't get that, it'll be a challenge, right? So you definitely want to say this is for illustrative purposes and that we're doing this in order to show you the value. and to prove the value out. So anybody have any other questions on this, or want to see me do some modifications to it or changes or anything like that?
So Jeff, this would be for a new campaign, but if you have an existing one and they're spending 5K and they're wondering, should we spend 10 or 15? I mean, you could use real numbers, right? Your real cost per click and your real conversion rate, and then expand out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you could easily, if their real numbers were 5, 24, 2.5, and these were their sales numbers, you could create like a model that just takes this number and then subtracts 0.2% or whatever every time, and you can just fill that over, and then you can create real scenarios for them. Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
That's actually, I mean, this is well, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just not doing it with a formula. I'm just sort of showing you the parabola. It's always a parabola profit, right? It's never spend the most money, make the most profit. It's always that there's a law of diminishing returns, because they're just supply and demand curve. There's only so much supply out there. And if you keep on pushing up demand, it'll go into a different supply level. And that second supply level is more expensive or harder to tap into, right? So there's always a profit equilibrium. It's never usually tied to it. It's loosely based on percentage, but the raw amount of profit is usually a little bit after you hit the best percentage. Meaning this is the best looking percentage here, 10K, but then you have to keep on going in spending in order to find the highest total profit. Or you might find a client who says, okay, well, you know what? I'm actually I'm going to keep on pushing. This I can live with this profit number. I want more customers, right? So I want to optimize for more customers. There are some tools inside Google Ads where they can do this number for you. The big difference is that they're doing it for optimizing your cost and optimizing around the conversion event. So they have the curve more for this. They don't have the curve factoring in how much money you made, especially if you're doing it in lead gen or with a bunch of upsells and stuff like that. So that's why I created this version here, because one, it looks proprietary if you have your own version of it, right? Like if you do this thing, people's minds will be blown when you show them your own profit maximizer. The second thing is the one in Google it only factors this top line. So just think of it this way. This is your ad network numbers. This is your website numbers and your sales numbers. This comes from your e-commerce system or your GA or however you look at the world. And then this is only the business owner knows those numbers and will tell them to you numbers. Although actually these are all calculated from above. So these are the business numbers, let's call it. So,
and did you say you have a different version for lead gen sites?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know if I have a Sheets version of it that I can just pull up, but we have one. It's in the resources for the insiders. And it's tied to the Google Ads course as well. I wanted to just stick with one calculator here versus do 10 of them. And I also wanted to just sort of get the idea going for the brain gain. So yeah, anybody else have questions? Let me just show the part where I say, does anybody have questions really quick? And so we're going to open the floor to questions now. Any more of those? And then just next week, just so you know, Fred is coming on to do a brain gain. I'm really excited about it. The e-commerce data layer for Google Tag with Fred. So I think that'll be really fun. So
what? Who said that was going to happen? No, that'll be great. That'll be fun.
Hopefully you're still, yeah, you might have been sick when you told us that you wanted to do it. So hopefully that stays. Cool. So let's open the floor to questions if anybody has them. Oops. Since I know I'll let you guys come up with some questions if you have them, but is this helpful for people to see this? Does it make sense? Like why you'd want to put something like this in place? Yeah. Okay.
Jeff, back to what you were saying at the beginning. Yeah, I think this is really helpful, and I don't want to dominate the conversation, but so you showed this to an agency that you were talking to for them to run ads for you? Is that?
Yeah. So
okay.
I've been using this as the agency provider since 2009. Like we'd go into every sales pitch would say, we'd do this interactive. We'd pull us up on the screen and we'd say, hey, how much do you want to spend on Google ads? And we put the number in there. And then we'd say, how much do you want to, and then we would find the cost per click using the Google tools. We'd sort of just like put in a bunch of keywords in advance just to sort of get an idea of what the industry was, or we'd use our other client accounts if we had them to sort of just say, yeah, this is what it costs for a Windows click. Then we would put in 2% conversion rate as a default. And then if they had a different one, they'd put in there. And then we would go through and say, how many of the leads that you get actually turn into an appointment where you go to their house? How many of the appointments do you have will sign the contract? So we would get their numbers and put them in there, and we would build the solution for them. Yeah. So it was sort of like again, it wasn't really, the conversation wasn't about whether they should do ads at all. It was whether it's when do they start doing ads with us, because we're the only ones who gave them an idea as to what they can expect. Because it's funny, and a lot of you know me as the analytics guy, and that's sort of how we've been interacting with each other a lot. But ads was like our number one service at the agency, and it all came down to teaching people who were skeptical about the idea of advertising that advertising is the right investment for them. And this is just one of many calculators we have. But the idea behind a calculator is to show them that it can work. Now, I unveiled several calculators last week to our Business Plus Mastermind group, and every one of those things was an opportunity to show how your exact service works, right? So, I mean, you could use these concepts for anything, really. And then now, but so Fred, I've been doing this for 10, 15 years, and yet I don't see any other agencies doing this. Like, they're not giving me proposals. They're giving me proposals about like stuff that isn't really that important to me. They're just like saying, hey, I know how to run Google ads. And it's like, yeah, of course you know how to run Google ads. Otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you. What I want is an idea as to how this is going to work for me, right? I want that level of hope that I'm going to invest in it, and that it's not something to do on my own. Right. So
I would hate to be an agency pitching to you. That's all I can say.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this, is that if I had time to do it, I might do it. But that's not the best use of a business owner's time. Like, I be on this side, like me running ads it would be the stupidest thing that I could do. Because then you don't, then you're like getting in the way of doing everything else on your business. Right. So I actually, so I think that it's good to, to know what's going on, but the agencies generally exist because of expertise and time. Like, so that's another, like, a lot of people forget that. Like, the whole only reason why we work with agencies is because that person has more time and process to throw at it, and they have expertise that we don't have in-house. So, okay, I see some questions coming in, so I'm going to take a look at those. Kiva says, not related to this, but will there be a brain gain on analysis reporting? There's a related inquiry in Slack, and generating recurring revenue for GA4 setups is beneficial to all. Yeah, so I'm open to the idea of doing something, a brain gain on that level. I need to know a little bit more about, talking about analysis reporting and so on. I'm open to the idea of it. So why don't you, if you want to let Kayla know, or we can start a thread and talk about it, and we can see how that would shape up. I have a lot of tools there that could be useful for sure. Jorg says, did you ever test the calculator for special niches in B2B where demand might be low and CPC is high? I assume the model works better if demand is really high and you can scale campaigns over budget. But I want to know, what are the limits of the calculator? Yeah, so Jorg, let me show you, because I found this worked a lot better for really low volume stuff than high volume stuff, actually. And the reason why is because and this is the one that's for e-commerce. So the lead gen one would be better here. But if we were to say that you spend $5,000 a month and it's $25 a click, right? And then you have a 1% lead conversion rate. So let's just call this lead. That means you get 2 leads. And actually, this is borderline like almost too little, you know. So cost per lead would be here, and then we're actually going to get rid of the revenue per sale, but we're going to say this has to say, so this is the problem, is I'm basically like making this the lead generation calculator, but doing it manually. So they get 2 leads, and then say that, let's just get rid of this number for now, and say that 50% of them with 2, it's really hard, but that'd be 2 qualified leads, or 1 qualified lead. And then, but this can work. So we'll get rid of this one, and then we're going to say close rate. So qualified rate is 50%, close rate, let's just call it 50%. So you close half your leads. That means that we get 0.5 sales. So in a month, you're going to get a half of one, maybe not even a full one. Get rid of this one, and then we'll get rid of lifetime value. You got to just forgive me on this one. We'll even keep the agency fees in there, but I'm just going to say total sale value. Let's just say that you only get half a sale, like 1 sale every 2 months, but each sale is worth 200 grand. Now I know people who do this, and I've seen it happen. So you have on here $100,000 in gross revenue. The average cost, I need to correct this thing. You can see how the sausage is made a little bit here. So the average cost is going to be 5,000 plus 750. So they're making 100,000 in revenue off of 5,750 in sales. That's super profitable in that case. As you can see, my return on investment, I need to look at that and see what's going on there. Okay, so and actually I would just have 1 column. I wouldn't even have this in there. And then this would be, let's see here. So they're making a huge return on investment in that case. And so both of those things are huge. So then if you look at there, you're looking at tolerance, you're like, okay, well, what if we spent $5,000? If I had these numbers in place, Jorg, I would probably say, well, it's a lot of work to manage B2B. So I would up my fees. Probably I'd be like, okay, well, we need, you're going to spend 5,000. We need 1,500 to manage this thing, because I'm seeing the margins there. And maybe you look at this thing and you say, okay, well, this is only 0.5%. And, 0.5%, and this is $50 a click. You're getting 0.1 sale. Even there, I'm not sure. Let's see. Even that should be profitable. I'm not sure why it's showing up that nicely. It shouldn't be that nice. I see. So it's got to be this. times. Sorry, folks. So it's E14 times C15, not plus, times C17. So all those things times 200,000. Yeah, so 25,000. So even if you get 0.1 sales, it's still super profitable. So yeah, that's what I found is that the more you mess with it, the fewer you have here. Even if you put like the bigger the sale value, the easier it is to convince somebody that it just takes one. Now the problem on the flip side of that is what ends up happening though is that 0.1 sales means that it could be that in month number 10 that the sale actually comes through, and nobody wants to have patience to wait till month number 10. They're going to be like, what did you do for me lately? And so that's where I see an issue. Cool. Mario says, I like your remark for business owners. I would get a partner in 3 cases. If they have expertise, I do not have. Yep. They have time, which I don't have. And then money, the money makes sense, right? There's a return on the investment, both in ads and the return on investment in their services. Yeah. Yes, Jorg, I think I want to emphasize what Jorg says here. This is a conversation starter. I'm not saying that this is the only, like, this is definitely it's like an amuse-bouche in the idea of advertising, right? It's like your starter, your first course. It's letting them know that they're in good hands with you as a chef, but it's not necessarily the crazy like 7-course tasting menu. No, the 7-course tasting menu is you giving them what looks like on the sheet, right? This is the menu of what it could look like, and then I trust that you all know how to cook, and that you're cooking your best hits, and that you have a team trained to do that cooking. So Fred says, can you put this into BigQuery instead? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can do this in BigQuery. Why not? No, I can't do this in BigQuery now. It's not worth it to do this in BigQuery. Cool. Well, this one, Kiva said she didn't see the amuse-bouche coming. I've been doing a lot of, as we can all see from my current appearance, and the amuse-bouche definitely lets you know you're in good hands, but it's not enough, right? It's just telling you the meal is ready to go. I'm going to save this. I'm going to share this lead generation one out to y'all too. This isn't perfect, but at least you have it, so you don't have to go do the work. You can see what I just built out here. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, I think this is a good stopping point. Hopefully you all learned something. You know where this tool is. That's really what I am excited about with these brain gains is it's just snackable. It's an easy one where we just look at it. We can use it if we want to. We can adjust it. As I was looking through Google image search, I found that somebody else already ripped this off and called it their budget calculator. So imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but there's like an agency that's just like says this is their agency calculator. And I was like, yeah, it looks exactly like ours, but what can you do? So, but I do encourage you to use this and to start making it into projection of playback for your clients, making it branded as yours. That's the point. Just don't say that you made it. Just don't publish it on the internet and say that you made it. That's tasteless, if you ask me. So just like my amuse-bouche. All right. And I know everybody's Googling what an amuse-bouche is right now as well. So no problem. All right. Well, cheers, everybody. Yes. And then Kayla put in there, if you have a topic of a future brain gains, that's the other thing I'm going to say is that everything to this point has come up organically on these calls, or in conversations or in our Slack group. That's really that's the whole point of this, is that if we're talking about something and we want to get deeper, deep enough that you can get an answer in less than an hour, then we're going to do it. So if you like calculators, I'm happy to build any calculator we want to see. If you like techniques in ads or analytics, those are all good things too. If you want case studies, we're going to start to vary the content format a little bit more as we introduce new voices. So we have a bunch of stuff cooking right now that we're going to work on. Jorg says server-side tracking. That's an interesting one. We'd have to do a specific part of server-side tracking to get that to work, right? But we could probably do a specific version of it. Fred says the e-commerce one. Yeah, Kayla will drop that link in there for you. Again, so we have it. Okay. So we'll get that. Yeah, let's make sure that link's in there. Other than that, I think we're good. So this is a quick and dirty one using the calculator. And I'd love it if inside the thread, if you want to paste or if you want to show what you've done with this thing or what's interesting to you, that'd be cool too, to see how you are able to utilize this and what you've done with it as well. So remember, next Wednesday at the same starting time as this one, Fred Pike is going to get on and talk about the e-commerce data layer, which I'm really excited to learn about and to see what you come up with, because I know you mentioned that you were playing around with it and you came up with some really cool insights. So I think the group's going to benefit from those.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Thank you.